Okay. So for each of the following, the center and radius are given. Write the standard form of the equation of a circle. So the equation of a circle that I gave you right here, that equation, that's standard form. This is standard form. So standard form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And remember, the center is hk and the radius is r. All right, so let's look at number one. So very easy. Watch at number one, A, B, and C. So number one, you're told the center is 3, negative 4. Number one, the center is 3, negative 4, and the radius is 3. It is always a good idea to denote the coordinates of the center using HK. Go ahead and do that. Make sure you use HK. It helps. So H is 3, K is negative 4. That's the center of the circle. H is 3, K is negative 4. And here's R. And all you do for this one right here, so write the standard form of the equation of a circle, all you do is take these numbers and plug it into the equation. So watch how simple this is. So you're going to say x minus h is 3 squared, plus y minus k, which is negative 4 squared, equals r, which is 3 squared. So all I did at this point was substitute my numbers, my values. H is 3, K is negative 4, R is 3. But don't leave it like this. Do not leave it like this. Here's how you're going to write this. You're going to say this. X minus 3 squared plus, we expect you, any math person knows that y minus a negative 4, even you as a student, you all know that y minus negative 4 means y plus 4. So write as y plus 4. I'll be looking for that. Don't leave it like this. You got to write it like this. And we also, even as a student, you know that 3 squared, 3 times 3 means 9. And there's your answer. Now don't FOIL this out. Leave it like this. Don't FOIL it out. Because remember, it said standard form. There's your standard form. That's how it's supposed to look. So there's your answer. That's the standard form. Very simple. Okay, so all you do is just plug into your equation. All right, let's look at number two. Number two, we have this. We have negative 4, 2, and the radius this time is the square root of 10. Okay? Now you may say, oh, well, that's the square root. That's going to be hard. No, it's not. Very simple. This same idea. So it helps, though, if remember, this is your center. So it helps to denote the h as negative 4 and the k as 2. And then we're going to plug it back into the formula. So remember, the formula is this: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And so let's plug into the formula. So you're going to say equals x minus a negative 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals the square root of 10 squared. Okay? Now remember, rewrite it. Don't leave it like that. You're going to be upset with me because you want to get all your points. Rewrite it. You all know that x subtract a negative 4 means x plus 4 squared, and then y minus 2 squared. And then here's what you can do with this. You remember the square root of 10 squared means the square root of 10 times itself? Well, the square root of 10 times itself is the square root of 100. And what's the square root of 100? 10. So that's what goes here. 10. Square root of 10 squared is just 10. And there's your answer. That's your standard form. Okay? So this was number 1A. This was number 1B. And now let's look at C. All right, C, we have the center is 0, negative 2, and the radius is 3 square root of 5. So the center is 0, negative 2, and the radius is 3 square root of 5. All right, so remember our formula right here. So you're going to say x minus, remember this is h, this is k. It helps to denote it. X minus 0 squared plus y minus a negative 2 squared, y minus a negative 2, y minus, remember it's always x minus h, y minus k, equal 3 square root of 5 squared. The radius squared. So here's your radius. You're going to square it. Now let's write the answer. Okay, don't let this throw you off. You all know that x minus 0 is x. So this is just x squared. Plus, you all know that y minus a negative 2 is y plus 2 squared. Equal. All right, now let's talk about this. 3 square root of 5 squared means this. 3 square root of 5 times 3 square root of 5. 3 times 3 is 9. The square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is the square root of 25, right? And the square root of 25 is 5, so that's 9 times 5, which is 45. And so 45 goes here. And so that's your standard form. All right, so that takes care of number 1. So that's how you do number 1. All right, so very simple. Now number 2, you're going backwards. So number 2 is this. You're given this, and you want to find the center and the radius. So you're kind of going backwards. So watch how this works. So number 2, oh, and by the way, let me just kind of show you something on a graph because we're going to need this in a little while, I think. So let me show you something real quick. Let me get the grid paper. So, all right. So you see number 1 right here. I just want to show you something real quick. So number 1, the center, number 1 was 3, negative 4. So if I put the point 3, negative 4, 3, negative 4, that's here. So that's your center. The radius is 3, right? The radius is 3. So that means when you draw your circle, the distance from the center to the point of the circle has got to be 3 units. So to draw this circle, you just, from the center, go to the right 3. 1, 2, 3, there's a point. 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 And then as best you can, draw the circle. Draw your circle as best as you can. So that's, I didn't do a very good job here, but that's that circle right here. This is the circle for this right here. So this circle right here has this equation. So this is x minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 9. All right, so remember, when drawing a circle, you're going to draw the center and you're going to use the radius. To get the radius, you just go right, left, down, up, and just draw your circle. All right, now let's look at number 2. Number 2 says this time. So number 2, you're going backwards. Number 2, so you're given standard form. From here, you want to find the center and the radius. Watch how simple this is. Number 2. So remember the equation of a circle is this: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay? And remember the center is hk. The radius is r. So this is your h, this is your k, and the radius is this number right here that you're squaring. So just this, not r squared, just r. So watch. So here's letter A. So we have x minus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 9. Okay? Now watch how simple this is. One thing you got to remember, see how I have x minus and then y minus? That's important. So what you see here is, it looks like this: x minus h, y minus k. So from here, I can tell right away that the center is 4, 2. Not negative 4, negative 2. That's important because you notice the equation says x minus h, y minus k. So the center is 4, 2. And to get the radius, all you do is take the square root, because right now you're squaring. The opposite of squaring is square root. So this will be the square root of 9, which is 3. So the radius is 3. So there's your center, there's the radius. The radius is 3. So all you do is just take the square root of this number right here. So that was A. B, let's look at B. You have x plus 7 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 27. Okay, now listen carefully. You see right here, I had x minus y minus, right? Here I don't. This says x plus, so be careful. Remember, the equation of a circle, to find hk, you got to think x minus. You got to think y minus. So when you do this one, you got to think x plus 7 means the same thing as saying x minus a negative 7. So this is your h. So h is a negative 7. And this is already y minus, so there's your k. So my center is negative 7, 6. Now here's how you find your radius. The radius, you always take the square root of this. So the radius is square root of 7. They will ask you, now 27 is not a perfect square. See, 9 was a perfect square, so I got a nice number 3. 27 is not a perfect square, but they're going to tell you to simplify the radicals. See, it's going to say simplify the radicals. So you got to think, besides the number 1, what other perfect square goes into 27? The answer is 9. So this is the square root of 9 times the square root of 3, because 9 times 3 is 27. And the square root of 9 is 3, so this becomes 3 square root of 3. So there's your radius. So there's your center, there's your radius. All right, let's look at C. So C, we have this. We have x plus 2 squared plus y squared equals 49. X plus 2 squared plus y squared equals 49. All right, so remember, let me kind of show you something earlier. Remember in letter C where we had x squared? So when we did x squared, see where we had x minus 0? That's how you're going to want to rewrite the y squared, just like that. So watch how simple this is. So it's always a good idea when finding the center and radius, when the equation's given, to think x minus, y minus. So this becomes x minus a negative 2 squared plus, now watch the y squared, y minus 0 squared. You saw that? Y minus 0 is y squared is y squared, equal 49. So here's your h, here's your k. So my center is negative 2, 0, and the radius is the square root of 49. And the square root of 49, 49 is a perfect square, and the square root of 49 is 7. So the radius is 7. So there's a radius, there's a center. All right, and then D part, watch how simple D is. Let's see if you can think about this real quickly. What do you think the center is here? Just in your mind, what do you think it would be? See, an x squared, y squared. So it kind of looks totally different than this or this or this. You just see x squared plus y squared. Well, think about what we just did here. So we have x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equal 12. So there's your h, there's your k. So the center is 0, 0. And remember, 0, 0 is the origin. So your center's at the origin. The radius is the square root of 12. Now remember, always read directions. Directions says simplify the radicals. So can I simplify the square root of 12? Is there a perfect square that goes into 12 besides the number 1? The answer is yes, 4. So I can write this as square root of 4 times the square root of 3, and the square root of 4 is 2. So this is 2 square root of 3. So there's your radius, and there's your center. The center is 0, 0. All right? Now, so that takes care of this. So very simple. Very simple. Now, let's look at number 3. That says the graph of a circle is given. Determine the domain and range in interval notation. All right, now I'm going to come back to this in a little while. Remember we drew this one a while ago? This one right here? Now here's how you can determine the domain and range. Remember guys, the domain is the set of x coordinates. The range is the set of y coordinates. Y coordinates. Okay? So set of x coordinates, set of y coordinates. Remember every point. See all these points on that circle? They're an infinite number of points. So you cannot list them because there's an infinite number. There's an infinite number of points on this circle. So when we do the domain and range, we're going to use interval notation. Interval notation. And when you do interval notation, you always go from smallest to largest. Smallest to largest. Okay? All right, let's talk about the domain. Let's do the domain first. Now here's how we do this. You take a ruler or some straight edge And remember the domain set of x coordinates. So remember the x-axis goes from right to left, right? From right to left. So as I go from right to left, I start touching the graph here, right? Now what's that x coordinate right here? This x coordinate, look at this up here, that's a 0. And I keep going, I get all these real numbers in here. Um, 1.1, 1.2, 1.087, and so on. And I stop touching the graph when I get to this point. And what's that x coordinate? That x coordinate is 6. So I'm going from 0 to 6. So you're going to write the domain as this. You're going to say domain. And for right now, you can use brackets. And we're going to talk about that as we go through functions. When we talk about functions later on, you're going to see why brackets or parentheses will be used. But for circles, you can use brackets. So you're going to say bracket 0 all the way, 0 all the way to, and remember, you got domains x coordinates. So this x coordinate right here is 6, all the way to 6. From 0 all the way to 6. So you're going to say bracket 0, 6 brackets. So that's your domain. The range, and remember I went from small to large, right? 0 is small, 6 is large. The range is a set of y coordinates. Remember your y-axis goes up and down. So for that one, you always go from bottom up because that's the smallest. So I start touching the circle when I'm at this point. But what's that y coordinate? See, that y coordinate is -7. And I go from -7 all the way to, and it stops here. And what's that y coordinate? That y coordinate is -1. So my range goes from -7 all the way to -1. So bracket, -7, comma, -1 bracket. And that's how you find the domain and range. Now, when we actually talk about functions in a couple of weeks, some of these will be parentheses. But for right now, when we do circles, you're going to put brackets. And we're going to talk about why later on in detail. But mainly it's brackets because -7 is on this graph. 0, see this is a point -4, 0 right here. So 0 is on this graph. 6, 6, the x coordinate 6. This is 6, -4. 6 is on the graph. So that's why that's why you use brackets here, because these coordinates are actually points on the graph. The open circle, when we do that later on, that's where it's not on the graph, and you can see what that means later. All right, let's do one more. I want to do this one. I want to come back to the one we did here, right here. So I want to graph it. So let me go ahead and get a sheet of paper out with a grid, so that way you can see a little bit better. Let me find a bigger grid. All right, here we go. All right, watch how simple this is. So I'm going to plot the point 3, -4, right? 3, -4, so that's here. 3, -4, 3, -4. There's the center. That's the center. The radius is 5. So remember, to draw the circle, since the radius is 5, you're going to go to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the left 5 from the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to do the best I can with drawing this circle. Just do the best you can. If you need to erase, you erase. Okay, now let's find the domain and range. I think all of you now, I'm going to put D for domain, R for range. I think all of you now know what to do. Domain is a set of x coordinates. So you go from left to right along the x-axis. So notice I start touching the graph at this point. What's that x coordinate? That x coordinate is -2. So bracket -2, comma, and then I stop here, right? That's where I stop. What's that x coordinate? That x coordinate is 8. So -2 to 8. So any number between -2 and 8 is going to be a point on that graph. And there are an infinite number of points. The range, you go from bottom up. This is the way you got to look at it. Go from bottom up. And when we talk about functions, you're going to see me doing the same thing. For range, you go from bottom up, because that's the y-axis. That's a set of y coordinates. So you go from smallest to largest. So when I touch the graph, What's that y coordinate right here? Well, that y coordinate's -9, isn't it? That's -9 right here. So go from bracket, -9, comma, and then over here, this y coordinate, if you look at that point, that's the point 3, 1. That y coordinate right here is 1. All right. So you go from, so the range is from -9 to 1 brackets. And that's it. That's all you do. So, um, so that is when you do the lesson this week on circles, that's what you're going to be dealing with. Okay? All right. So,